All right. Hey, good morning or afternoon or evening or whenever you are watching this. This is the new format we're offering for training for our volunteers who are coming here to support the NAS Pensacola Religious Ministry Program. I am Chaplain Jeremy Salido. I am the command chaplain for the religious ministry program here within NAS Pensacola and Corey Station Annex. And I'm so glad that what you are doing is partnering with us in this capacity. This is going to take the place of our in-person training that we used to have at very specific times, and I know everyone had to adjust their schedules to be here. So this way, you can have this training and access the documents online that we're going to talk about, and then fulfill those requirements so that you can keep on doing what you need to do without having to come inside the gate and make all this happen. If you do have questions after this, please uh, email us with the um, the email address that we'll put in the notes section. Um, and of course, you're always welcome to come by or call. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen so we can get started here. I'm going to click on some buttons. There we go. And you are now seeing the first update to what we're doing with the training. And I know the one of the challenges is that it seems to be that there's always some update, some change. And so what you're seeing here is instead of a covenant, we have something called a statement of work. And so the title you should be seeing here, it says Naval Air Station Pensacola, NASP, Performance Statement of Work for Civilian Volunteer Worship Providers. So two changes. First of all, instead of a covenant, as we are continuing to bring what we do here fully aligned top to bottom with the Navy Chaplain Corps. Um, the Navy Chaplain Corps is using this idea of a statement of work instead of a covenant. So we are going to taking what we do uh, training and putting it into a statement of work. But then secondly, the title of what you're doing. In the past, we have used the term religious support volunteer. And that made a lot of sense. It still makes sense. But again, as we bring ourselves in line, the way the Navy Chaplain Corps looks at this connection and relationship, it's with the idea of a civilian volunteer worship provider. And that also makes sense because everyone we're talking about right now in this training are civilians. You're operating as a civilian person. You're not a uniform person. And you're a volunteer. You're not a paid staff member. Because as the military employs, mans, staffs the religious program, they're going to have uniform folks that they cut orders for, myself, the other chaplains, the religious program specialists. They will have contractors. And when we don't have uniform folks or contractors covering down on the requirements, we have civilians who are volunteers. But the last part of this you'll see on the screen, it says worship providers. And if you come from a Christian background, specifically a Protestant Christian background, when we think of, I know when I think of worship provider, I usually think of a Sunday morning gathering. I think of some kind of worship service where there's music and there's preaching. Um, but the way the Navy looks at this, a civilian volunteer worship provider is someone that is providing is participating in and making a religious um, experience happen. And this is differentiated from the civilian volunteers who say are ushers on a Sunday morning, or they're they're doing something that's not necessarily interacting directly in a very intimate way, ministering to um, the sailors and Marines. So if you're here in this training, that's because you are saying that you are a civilian, that you are not getting paid, but you are helping our sailors and Marines lean into their faith in a way that is very distinct from just kind of helping out in just logistical senses. So if you're not going to be doing anything that is um, actually like getting kneecap to kneecap with sailors and Marines, talking about the faith that you all hold in common. If you're just driving, maybe, or you're just going to be doing some logistical support, you don't need this. But if you are in the mix here in the building or in the barracks within the fence line, then you're in the right place. All right, so that's the title. Those are the changes. Statement of work, volunteer worship providers, and you'll see this used throughout our training this morning, or afternoon, or evening, whenever you're taking this in. All right, so we're going to break this down. There is some parts and pieces to this. So the first part is background. There's going to be references, specifications, and we'll break down the specifications here. I'm kind of scrolling through the screen. There's going to be a duration and termination. Again, it's just kind of a kind of a legal document. Hopefully spells out very clearly what we're doing. There are deliverables. We break down the place of performance, and there's acknowledgement, and where we then fill in names and signatures, dates, and myself as well. All right, well, let's get into this. And we're not going to belabor the point very long here. Hopefully this will be very simple. So background, civilian volunteer worship providers are part of the Command Religious Program aboard NAS Pensacola, NASP, and Core Station Annex, and agree to support it. Okay, so you are, wherever ministry you're coming from, so whether you're crew or navigators or Shiloh or Word of Faith Ministries or anybody else, when you are coming inside the fence line, you are saying when you're operating inside the fence line, you're operating as part of the Command Religious Program. So just like the Command Religious Program has uniform folks, has contractors, we have volunteers, and we all coordinate and work together and work as a cohesive unit. And we all work in concert according to these references. And we do this as far as with what I'm charged with. And if you're working with me, that means you're working together within the fence line of NAS and within the fence line of Corey Station Annex. I don't have any official capacity over in Whiting. So if you do anything over there or at Eglin or Hurlburt, that is awesome. But this is just for operating within NAS Pensacola and Corey Station Annex. So, and to that point, also, as a volunteer worship provider, you will have really kind of you may have three different relationships. One is going to be with your faith group, your religious organization. So if you're here from crew, you're accountable to crew or navigators or just whoever is over you. That's you, right? The next relationship you would have is with me as the Command Religious Program Director within the fence line of NAS and Core Station. But the second, or the third relationship you would have is with the other chaplain or the other unit that is within the fence line. So for instance, if you're serving, ministering in the barracks, and you're doing ministry with Marines, well, those Marines don't belong to the NAS commanding officer, but the ministry is happening within NAS. So that's why you come to me. But then I connect you with the chaplain, the command religious program. So we're saying there's three hats here. You come to me from your ministry, you come to me from your ministry, and then once we go through this process to get you fully vetted, then I hand you off, and you're supporting the command religious program that those Marines, in this case, are part of. Or if you're in the barracks for IWITSE or NATSE or Schools Command, uh, you come to me from your religious organization, and then I hand you off to whatever unit command religious program it has accountability and responsibility to serve those schools command sailors, IWITSE command sailors, uh, Nazi sailors. Okay. So you will have really three different folks that you are having to partner with in this sense. As you do your ministry within a command religious program inside of the fence line of NAS Pensacola or Corps Station Annex. Okay, let's keep pushing now. These are references if you want to get into those. Specifications. So we've got 10 bullets here we're going to look at. Prerequisites. So before engaging in any volunteer activities, volunteer worship providers must complete the annual CRP, which is a command religious program, volunteer training. That's what you're doing right now, and initial suicide awareness training. So if you have not completed that ever, then you will have to get you in here in-house, and that's about a 2.5 to 3 hour block. We'll do that once a month, and your ministry leader will let you know when that is. If you've already done that and we've got that certificate in hand, then you're good to go. You never have to do it again. But that's provided by my office, Command Chaplain's office. You'll also need to submit a signed statement of work. That's what this is. You need to submit a letter of authorization from your represented religious organization that just needs to say that they are vouching for you, and there's going to be a paragraph coming up here that talks a little more about that. You'll need to have a DD Form 2793 volunteer agreement. Let's look at that. So this is the volunteer agreement form. And again, all of these things are linked in the notes of this video. So you can just go to those links and download the forms. If for some reason the forms you download aren't filled in like they're seeing here, please come back to this video and you could fill in those parts that I have already filled out for you by example. So volunteer agreement this is an appropriated fund activities. Scrolling down, part 1, your name, last name, middle initial, name of parent, guardian. So I don't think anybody watching this is under 18, so you wouldn't need that. So you're 18 or over, block 3. Your phone number, your email address, please. Print as legibly as possible. Typing is great if you can. Part 2, volunteer assignment. So installation, NAS Pensacola, and that covers you for Corey Station as well. Organization/unit, your organization is NAS Pensacola, me. Program where the service occurs is the religious ministry program. Anticipated days a week, just for everybody, put Sunday through Saturday. That way, even if your activity is just Thursday night or just Friday night or whatever, this gives you access any day of the week you need to. Anticipated hours, I'm anticipating no one's going to be here more than 20 hours a week. So I said less than 20. And then for description of volunteer services. And the reason for this form is because when you're within the fence line, the government has accountability for everybody in the fence line, whether it be a uniformed person, and everybody and the government knows whatever uniform person you are, we know exactly why you're here and what you should be doing. If you're a contractor, we know why you're here and what you should be doing. And if you're a volunteer, the government, those above me as well, need to know why you're here, what you're doing. And also that way, uh, no one can say, hey, you're an extra body. I need you to do this thing. You can go, no, no, no. This is my description of what I've agreed to. So description, as broad terms as I can make it, it's support and or lead religious studies, provide one-on-one spiritual mentoring. Now that spiritual mentoring is what some might call discipleship. Some might call that pastoral counseling. But the idea there is if religious studies are in a group setting, one-on-one is that kneecap to kneecap opportunity, mentoring, coaching, um, and that is super, super valuable. Next description is support to occasional fellowship opportunities. So you're providing food for your gathering, you're covered. Uh, you are you're providing support to occasional outreach events. So if you partner with me for outreach events, either at the barracks or other places, you're covered for that. Support to emergent response needs, where the religious ministry program is operating as part of the NAS Pensacola mission. An excellent example of this is where uh, the hurricane hit Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. They flew non-essential personnel up here in a sudden emergent situation, and the religious ministry program, as part of the NAS Pensacola mission to receive these folks, process these folks, take care of these folks, the religious ministry program had a part in that, and several, I mean, many, many, many volunteers from your midst jumped in and helped out. And so this just kind of gives you the coverage that you are uh, able to do that. So that's part 3. That's covered. And again, if whatever document when you print it from the link, if it's blank, then please just fill it. You can see it here. Part 3 now is where you will, read this. You'll sign it. Uh, this box you shouldn't need to sign because no one's under 18. Then you'll date it, and then bring it back here because my name's here, and then I need to sign it. Now, if you email it, that's fine. Or if you bring it in, that's fine. And then I'll sign it and we'll file this away, because ideally, we are going to be, you hopefully are keeping track of how many hours you're doing in a year, and we can log this in here, and I'll sign off on it. Okay, so this is the volunteer agreement form. Now let's go back to the statement of work. So still in 1 and DD form 2793 agreement form. The next form is the DD form 3058, consent to conduct installation records check. Now this is a new requirement that came out last year. So I'm gonna click on the tab. So this is Department of Defense. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit. Department of Defense consent to conduct installation records check. So everyone who is coming in as a civilian volunteer who is not a uniform person and not a contractor, even if you are a retiree, you have to go through this process with this form. So your name, if you have a maiden name or some other kind of name that would be used in official records, police records of any kind, place of birth, date of birth, and again, please look at year, month, day, your social security number, and your current address. Then you will print your name, your date that you're signing it, you'll sign it, email address as clearly as possible, your phone number as clearly as possible. I filled this in, and again, if the form you download isn't pre-filled in. Please just put it as you see it here. The command in block 8A is NAS Pensacola /NAS Pensacola /RELMIN. Position hire start date is NA because you're not hired. Block 8C as in Charlie is you are a volunteer. And that's it. The rest of this on the back side will be filled in. This part doesn't count for you guys because this is if you're doing childcare, and no one here is doing childcare. But the installation law enforcement will do a quick background check, do a defense central index of investigations, and then they'll push it back to me. So because you're putting on your social security number and your date of birth, please do not email this to me unless you can encrypt it and I can receive it encrypted from you. Otherwise, I'm really going to need you to bring it in. All right, so that is very important. That's the DD form 3058. And then the last form, if you need it, is for base access. Many of you have done this before. If you are a retiree, you don't have to worry about this because the forms that we've talked about so far, one gives you the ability as the volunteer agreement, it makes you part of the team. The second one, because you're going to be a volunteer, not a paid person, the second one gets you the kind of background clearance to be here as not a felon. And then this last form just gives you access into the fence line. So if you're a retiree, or if you're a dependent, or if you're a dependent of a retiree, you already have an ID card that gets you on the base. If you're none of those, then you need to get a base pass or what we call a DBIDS card. And this form is needed. So you'll download this. You won't need to bring this to me. You'll bring this to the gate. So you fill this in as you see it here. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom because I am your base sponsor. Here's my name. There's the phone number for the office. On the next page, block 25, employer name is NA because I'm not your employer. Supervisor NA. Again, phone number, employer name, because again, you're not a contractor coming on to work on the base. So now, work hours. I said other, and then you'll need to fill in just kind of a large block of time of whenever, if you think you'd be here from like potentially noon to 2100, or something, noon 21, or whenever you get out. So what they do is they put on the DBIDS cards potentially when to expect that you would be here, because some people come in for different activities, and security will look at your base access and want to know. So, what are you here for? Are you allowed to be outside of those times and those places? So that's important. And now, aside from the time, there's the work days. It won't let me check more than one box. So after you print it, you would just need to, by hand, check whatever boxes. Again, Monday, I would recommend Sunday through Saturday. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Please be honest with this because they will find out. And then you would initial here. Again, you'll bring this to the visitor center. And I, every month, send up a list of names of the volunteers that I currently sponsor. So if someone's name is not on that list, then security will not be letting them on base, or will be giving them a pass. So just know it's very important that we do this process properly so that you get access. All right. And so that's base access. Okay. That's block 2.1. The rest should fly by pretty good here. Block 2.2, the letter of authorization. So let's talk about your religious organization. I said there are three people you might be answering to. The first one is your religious organization. The letter of authorization from your represented religious organization must list specific religious services. So this is kind of a new change that the Chaplain Corps is giving. List specific religious services and or rights the volunteer worship provider is authorized to provide, and the duration of the authorization. So it used to be, hey, they're vouching for you that you're in good standing. That's still important, but they need to say, oh, this person is authorized to teach. This person is authorized to do baptisms when allowed, because obviously anything on base that does, and we'll talk about this here in a second, has to do with the sacraments we guard. But what are you allowed to do? The duration, this is annually. So until 12 months, volunteer worship providers will conduct religious services unless they want to give you again a letter that's longer than 12 months, which nothing says that you can't have that. So duration could be for 24 months, 36 months. Volunteer worship providers will conduct religious services for their RO only, their religious organization only. I'm not going to ask anyone to do something that's outside of their faith tradition. And in the manner and form of the represented RO. So if we're going to have like a baptism Sunday and I want to invite everybody who's got someone to get baptized, and all of a sudden I say, well, hey, I want to, we're going to do this in a sprinkling way, but you're a dunker, for instance. You don't have to sprinkle if you're not a sprinkler. I mean, that's a kind of a rudimentary way of giving an example, but so whatever you're doing is according to your manner and form. So your Bible studies, your gatherings are according to your tradition. And because, again, as the command religious program, what the commanding officer has to do, what I have to do as the designee, what we all have to do is provide for religious ministry. Now, I have to not only provide for how I'm trained for my religious organization, but also I need to facilitate for everybody. So I've got folks that are Muslim, I got folks that are Jewish, I got folks that are Buddhist, I got folks that are Hindu, I got folks that are various kinds of Christian and Catholic. You are here to meet the niche of your people, whatever that is. And for us, because there's so many folks come from a Christian background, a lot of you are meeting a need in of a Christian way. And if you're some other faith tradition, then obviously you're here because you're meeting that niche. Okay. So that's 2.2. That's the letter. 2.3, military chaplains, contract civilian worship providers, and lay leaders normally take precedence in leading a religious service. In other words, if you see, we really, I wish there's someone doing such and such, or someone comes to you and say, oh, hey, there's this great opportunity for a retirement, or someone needs counseling or whatever. If that comes to you as a volunteer and as my teammate, you've got to push that up first and foremost to a military chaplain has to try to meet that need, and then a contract civilian worship provider, and then a lay leader if we have one for that, then a volunteer. Okay, and so we've got to make sure we stay in coordination there. Number 4, acceptance of a volunteer worship provider's services is at the commanding officer's discretion. So ultimately, the commanding officer owns the command religious program. Bottom line, all stop. This is not my ministry. This is not the Navigators ministry or Cruise ministry or Word of Faith's ministry or Brownsville ministry. It's not Pensacola Christian Servicemen's ministry. This is the CO, the commanding officer's ministry, and we all work together. Now, the CO will appoint volunteer worship providers on the basis of volunteerism, high moral character, motivation, religious interest, completion of the prerequisites, which we saw up here, and the command chaplain's recommendation. So when I sign on the bottom of this, that's my recommendation that I'm pushing up to the CO. Volunteer worship providers have no authority to task or supervise service members. So, for instance, in other words, I have a staff, and all the other command and religious programs you may partner with may have staff members. VWPs have no authority to task or supervise service members. VWPs will operate under the authority of the CO, the chaplains, and the religious program specialists. So, if a 25-year-old, a 19-year-old teammate of mine or teammate of another chaplain says, "Hey, we got to do this thing," then you've got to be okay with doing what they say. But it doesn't work the other way. You've got to be able to say, "I know I've been doing this for several decades, and you're a Johnny come lately, but is it okay if?" And usually we are so thankful to have you with us on the team, and we value what you're bringing. So you shouldn't have any problems with there. All right, 2.5. Any equipment, material items, facility space, outside support that you require, but it's not readily accessible in the provided meeting space. It's got to be obtained in coordination with the command religious program. So, for instance, sometimes we will have snafu in scheduling meeting spaces in the barracks, and work with me on that. Okay. If you need other equipment for those gatherings, work with me on that. All service promotional media, including printed and electronic media, so flyers and that kind of thing, it's got to be produced in coordination with me. I had the public affairs officer was in the barracks for something a couple weeks ago, and he saw a flyer of one of your gatherings, and he sent me a photo like, "Hey, is this part of you?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're with me." And so we're working on getting standardized, better standardized promotional material, and that's coming. I know I've been saying that for about a year now, but it's coming. So with that in mind, VWPs will not distribute unsolicited materials outside the meeting of their individual groups without the permission of the NASP command chaplain. In other words, I, as much as you, I want people to come and experience what you have for them, but we can't want it for them, and we can't go around handing out flyers and go knocking on doors. We have to be very mindful that we're in their neighborhood, and just like it's a little off-putting when people are going door to door in our neighborhoods, but they're not part of us in our neighborhood. We're very out. We gotta push back. So same thing. Like when we're in the barracks, we cannot just walk around and hand stuff out unless we're in coordination and we are doing that in a very mindful, respectful way. Again, in coordination with me. Now, does that mean that you can't, as you're walking to the meeting, say hi, interact with people? No, I would hope as a healthy, caring human being that you would be very warm and inviting. Just gotta be mindful about how we do that. Number 6, VWPs will not counsel or advise outside of strictly religious matters related to their religious organization or proselytize outside of the context of their service. In other words, one, we have to make sure we know our part is what you're here for, and you're meeting a very specific need within the command religious program is to provide for the faith tradition that you're here with, and also to connect not only vertically to the divine, but also connect relationally. That's great. Um, but as far as counseling, no one is here as a clinical counselor or as even a pastoral counselor. So just be very careful. Mentorship coaching is fine. Um, Proselytizing outside the context of the service. In other words, um, the military does not want us doing door-to-door evangelism, street corner evangelism. You get into a conversation inviting someone to the meeting. We're not going to do a hard sell. Um, okay, that is not the way we're going to operate. Also, you're not covered by and cannot claim the same confidential communication that I have. Um, so you are absolutely a mandatory reporter for anything that has to do with harm to self, harm to others, breaking the law. You cannot keep a secret. And we learned this in the suicide awareness training. Um, but if you have any concerns, just know that I have confidentiality. And so if you have a real concern, reach out to me and we can work from there. Okay. Number 7, any changes to the volunteer worship provider's religious services. In other words, the time and the location, including changes in time, special events. You got to have prior approval, coordination with me. Just like when I'm dispatching, my teammates go, hey, I need you to do something. They're going to do it unless they come back and say, hey, I can't do that because. And usually that also means because um, as you're working with me or somebody else, we're advertising, we're pushing up to others. Hey, you should go to and see this and be a part of. Uh, Whereas if you know that you're canceling or you're pausing for whatever reason, um, or you want to move locations, you've got to coordinate with that with us, with either myself or whatever other, or and as well as the other religious ministry program you're working with, so that we can communicate to our other stakeholders to fully support that work that we're all doing together. Volunteers must notify the RELMIN staff of cancellation services. So if you say, you know what, um, I think we need to discontinue operating in this space and so that we can do it over here. Sounds great. I will appreciate and value that recommendation and probably support it wholeheartedly. I just need to be able then to communicate that. Number 8, volunteer worship providers will submit attendance reports to the NAS Pensacola command chaplain according to the format and instructions provided. This is so important. I can't say it enough, and I'm going to start really kind of holding feet to the fire more starting this year. We've got a lot of folks who are doing this, but there's still several folks that aren't following through on this. And the reason why this is important is because this is how we tell the story of what good is happening. Let me show you here in a second how to do it, but I just need to say the why. So often, folks who don't know the faith might think, well, all that you do is just on Sunday, just an hour on Sunday. And you and I know that there's so much more happening, not just Sunday, not just, and then it's every other day of the week. It's in groups, it's in one-on-ones, it's over phones. Like there's so much happening in so many different places. But if we don't capture that in data, it never happened. We've got to be able to show the metrics to the enterprise, or else they don't care about stories. Okay, stories are helpful, but we got to show the data. So I'm going to show you first. Here's a QR code. This is on. This is available for you to download. It's in the notes. But also, when you use this QR code, you're going to go to the website, and I'm going to real quick stop sharing this, and I'm going to share the where is it? Oh yes. Okay. So let's share. We want the screen right here, I think. All right. So I hope you can see that. I'm going to make sure I'm going to stop sharing that because I want to make sure that I'm sharing the exact thing we need. Pensacola RELMIN usage. Here we go. Okay. So you see that tab there. So the link goes to this. Now this is a new, I know, I'm sorry, a new reporting. We used to use a Google form. But that was tied to a person's Google account. So the military has a Microsoft suite. And so this is a Microsoft form that is connected to the religious ministry program. So we're going to use this. So you'll click on, so NAS Pensacola RELMIN usage. This form updates the NAS Pensacola Religious Ministry team. Your inputs help us to tell a valuable story of this ministry. This is a very simple process. This is not going to ask for any data of yourself or others. So just, you would first put in the date. So if you had today, please select the installation of your event. I did on Pensacola. We're not asking for what barracks, just what installation. Number of minutes. So, I had if it was an hour gathering or an hour and a half gathering, let's say an hour and a half gathering, 90 minutes. I need number, a numeral, and it's in minutes. How many were present for your event? Again, numeral. Oh, I had 15 or whatever it was. Numerals, not words. Submitted by, Jeremy Salito. What's your organization? Pull down menu. Hopefully it has everybody listed here. So you'll look for yours. It's in alphabetical order. I'm going to say this is NASP chaplain led, but you could, again, scroll down, find yours, and you'll click on it. Or if it's not listed, there's an other you could put in there, and we'll adjust it accordingly. But I'm going to say NASP chaplain led. Was this event offered online? If it was, great. I'm going to say yes, because this is offered online. Is this a religious or non-religious event? You would say religious. Click next. Now, please select the type of religious event. All right, so here's a whole list of things here. So hopefully you would say whatever you did. So if it was a Buddhist service, Latter-day Saints service, long service, Jewish service, a religious study. So a lot of folks will do Bible studies. You can do that, religious study. If you did a fellowship, okay. So now we've got a fellowship. Youth group, music rehearsal, wedding, prayer meeting, but most folks would do a religious study. So, and now I submit. Boom. It's great. Now, if you wanted to go back and edit it, you can save our response to edit or do another one. So say it's in the evening and you did two things today, or you did a group study and then a one-on-one, and you want to submit both. Please, even for your one-on-ones, submit one of these for each of those. That is so very valuable. Right? So I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to go back and I'm going to share, go back and share this right here. Okay, so now we're back. We talked about The attendance report. Volunteer worship providers, number 9, will not disseminate personal information of any authorized personnel. So in other words, as you get contact information from folks, you cannot hand that off without their consent to other organizations, or anybody else, without their consent. Okay. Number 10, VWPs may not behave in a manner prejudicial to good order and discipline. It goes without saying, we all, me, you, represent the commanding officer. We also represent our religious organization. And so if at any time we get to that place in our walk of faith, our life, that maybe we're struggling, it's best to take a knee and not make a problem for good order and discipline. But just know we have had folks who were not invited back, or folks who were excused, because we will talk to you. I will talk to you. I will sit down with you and make sure there's understanding of what the standards are. But after a couple times of communication, I will ask anyone to no longer be a part of this, and we'll pull all credentialing. Okay. And so just, unfortunately, we had to do that in the past, but I'm so glad that the majority of folks are just doing wonderful, wonderful work and making such a huge difference in so many folks. All right, so go to the second page here. So number 3, the duration and termination. So this performance statement of work is valid and effective from the date of signature by the CO for a specified period of 1 year. So you will sign a date, bring it to me. I will submit this up to the CO, and we will have the CO sign a letter of authorization, and that would be good for 1 year. And so we need to have you come back and do this again every year. This appointment can be terminated, though, by the CO at his or her discretion when the requirement precipitating the appointment has ceased. So if we no longer have the same need, same requirement, then anybody who is currently a part of this program could be asked not to come back because we no longer have the requirement. No one, not even myself, no one has a requirement to be here. All of us have the privilege of being here. We hold that loosely. Number 3, when the conduct of the volunteer hinders the CRP or adversely impacts good order and discipline. Number 4, deliverables. Okay, so we said these are things. So in addition to complying with the above requirements, VWPs must provide or coordinate with the NASP RELMIN office, this office right here, for the following documents. Signed performance statement of work. That link is available in the notes of this video. Religious organization letter of recommendation. Please send that in. Email or drop off. Suicide awareness. And again, if whatever letters you've submitted in the past didn't have the things that we have discussed up here in block 2.2, well, just please go back and have your organization renew your letter and in alignment with this new training. Suicide awareness training certificate. We're auditing everyone's files just to make sure everybody's got those in their files if you've been here a while. And if you're new, we will send out a date for when we're going to do that training for new people. Number 4, that signed volunteer agreement, DD form 2793. It's in the notes section. Signed consent to conduct installations records check, DD form 3058. In the notes section, again, it's linked there. But please do not email that in because it's going to have your social security number and your date of birth. The ID badge installation pass from security. The form is in the notes. Take that to pass an ID. And then, of course, we'll have to have a letter of appointment from the CO, and I'll make sure that is taken care of once we have everybody's stuff in hand. All right, so place of performance. So the volunteer worship provider will conduct the authorized services at NAS Pensacola and or Core Station Annex. So one of those 2 locations, or both. And then now the acknowledgement. So by signing this, you're saying, I acknowledge receipt of training, that's today, wherever day this is, from a NASP chaplain, that's me, either in person, so we may offer this in person here in the near future, or virtually. That's like we're doing right now. I acknowledge the authorities under which my voluntary services are being delivered, my responsibilities, limitations, and requirements. Then your printed name, the date that you are completing the training, your signature, the date you're signing it. Now, I will do this part. I recommend this volunteer services be accepted as part of the CRP. I sign it, I date it, and then I send this up. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. So I've told the story before, but I just can't say it enough. How, in my own experience, when I was a young service member, going to training outside of my home, away from my family, um, it was so life-giving to find like-minded folks who were part of that faith tradition that I come from, and I could connect to in a very sincere way, but also they encouraged me in our background, and it made just a tremendous help for me as I went from that place somewhere else. And so, as you are here and you are providing a family for folks who are away from their own, and you're providing a gathering when they're here away from their own gathered folks, just know that as they leave here, they are going to speak of the good that happened here and the difference that you made in them. And Lord knows, I mean, it was 30 years ago. That's crazy. 30 years ago, this year, this is 2026, that I went to boot camp and I got to experience it for myself. And now here I am. And so someone 30 years from now will be looking back on just how you were used. So let's lean in together with these requirements and these processes, and we'll make it all happen within the confines that are placed on us, so that we could do all the good that's available. God bless. See you soon. Bye now.